Yet again, we find ourselves talking about questions of Keir Starmer's judgment, specifically in relation to appointing someone to high office who was friends with a sex offender.
Should we talk about it with Steve Swinford? I was going to say Keir Starmer then. That would be it. That would be,
you buried the
that would
lead.
be quite something, wouldn't it? Keir Starmer joins us on the line now. Steve Swinford joins us on the line now. In fact, probably somebody who's better able to navigate.
He's like a better Keir Starmer, isn't he?
Navigate what's going to happen. Morning, Steve.
Good morning.
We are expecting the Prime Minister at Prime Minister's Questions at midday. It's probably going to be difficult for him. What do you think the opposition is going to push him on today?
So I think undoubtedly they are going to look at the appointment of Lord Doyle. So this is Keir Starmer's former Director of Communications, who was elevated to a peerage on January the 8th. And that was controversial already. It was a kind of crony move where you put one of your mates in the Lords, and that was seen as pretty dodgy. It now looks a lot more dodgy because of the Sunday Times. And Gabriel Pogrund, my great colleague at the Sunday Times, did a piece on December the 27th disclosing that Doyle had campaigned on behalf of a guy called Sean Morton, who was a councillor who at the time had been charged with sex offences, with downloading indecent images, that kind of thing. So he literally went up there and wore T-shirts to campaign with Morton as an independent councillor, which is an extraordinary thing to do. So his story came out on the 27th of December, and the peerage at that stage still hadn't been confirmed. The King has to do this thing where he signs a letter of patent, is what it's called, and that process didn't happen until January the 8th. So big front page in the Sunday Times, number 10 appears not to have heeded it, noted it, and they just rumbled on and went ahead with the appointment. And you now have this really quite extraordinary situation where loads of senior Labour women are coming out and saying, you need to strip him of his peerage, you need to pass an act to get that peerage off him, you should never have given it in the first place. And yet again we find ourselves talking about questions of Keir Starmer's judgment, specifically in relation to appointing someone to high office who was friends with a sex offender. And that's the issue again.
Yeah, and it's the same as you say, Steve. It's almost unbelievable that we're having this conversation because it is the same issue, and number 10 at the time indicated that they were aware of the connection between the two men, and they suggested that they had investigated the links and found no issue. I mean, this morning we had the Minister on our programme suggesting that that means there's a problem with the process, but some might question whether there's actually a problem with the judgment.
There's no issue with the process here. It is a fundamental issue of judgment. There is a picture on the front page of the Sunday Times, a massive picture of Matthew Doyle and Sean Morton, this sex offender, together campaigning in Scotland. It's black and white. Well, it's actually Technicolor, right? It's they're wearing blue T-shirts. It's there, and yet they still allow that peerage to go through on January the 8th. And that is, again, a fundamental question of Keir Starmer's judgment. And that is such a gift to Kemi Badenoch that I cannot see a world in which she doesn't go for it. What I would also point out is that Anna Turley, who is the chair of the Labour Party, a very important woman in the Labour Party, has said that Doyle should be stripped of his peerage. So we've got this relentless pressure, which I imagine Keir Starmer has to bow to. How can he not? He's already said he's going to do the same for Lord Mandelson, but at this rate, God knows how many peers we'll have on that list when that legislation eventually sees the light of day. So that is a big problem for the Prime Minister, and I imagine could take centre stage today.
Yeah, and of course the Prime Minister will be meeting with a group of female Labour MPs, we think, after Prime Minister's Questions today, and this will absolutely undoubtedly come up.
It will come up. So he has to have a pre-prepared line. We don't know what that is right now. I imagine he's wargaming it with colleagues. But it just, again, for a Prime Minister that is focused on survival, wants to talk about the cost of living, wants to talk about, the issues that he thinks will turn things around for him. Once again, he is talking about a scandal involving someone that he has appointed, and that's a problem.
Let's talk about what that means politically for the Prime Minister, because many people say he's now put the leadership challenge away for at least a couple of weeks. Some people point to Gorton and Denton, the by-election, as the next big test for him in a couple of weeks' time. Others point to May. Whatever you think, the danger still looms, though. Where does that leave the main camps? And we maybe would characterise those as Wes Streeting and Angela Rayner at the moment.
So I'm going to be clear. Keir Starmer had a good day on Monday. He was faced with a very clear threat to his leadership. Number 10 at the time kind of denied it. They said it was a media connection. No, people in Number 10 have told us it was clear and present. They feared that this was it. That when Anna Sarwar, the Scottish Labour leader, went over the precipice and said that Keir Starmer had to go, more would follow, and that didn't happen. And what that has done is it has left Wes Streeting, who is seen as one of the main leadership rivals, quite isolated. And there is a story in The Guardian this morning where allies of Wes Streeting are defiantly talking up his prospects of still toppling the Prime Minister and becoming the next Labour leader. And that has prompted an angry response from Wes Streeting himself, because it's a really unhelpful briefing for him, right? There is a kind of risk that he is in so many conflicts now with Number 10 over and over again that colleagues and some cabinet ministers are saying the Prime Minister needs to sack him. Now, Keir Starmer is not strong enough to sack Wes Streeting, so I don't think that will happen. But either way, it leaves Wes Streeting in a kind of defensive crouch. And there is one winner from that defensive crouch. That's probably Angela Rayner, who is submarining, kind of going under the radar. She's still got her tax investigation to clear up, but she's quietly gathering support. So when you look at where the different camps are at the moment, I would be probably buying, as one of my colleagues at the Eye put it, Kitty Donaldson said, you kind of buy stock in Angela Rayner at the moment and you sell in Wes Streeting. Now that can change, and it can change again. This is a long game, but that's just to give you a feeling for the feeling in Cabinet and where ministers are this morning.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Steve, just finally, what are Number 10 saying to you? I mean, obviously, you've given us an indication into their thinking at the start of the week. When you speak to them, and I know that you do, a number of times a day, how are you judging their mood? I mean, they've got a relatively new team in there now. There is even a suggestion they want to bring back Steph Driver, who basically left because Tim Allen was appointed ahead of her. What's the mood like in there?
The mood is positive because they survived a coup. They survived an attempt to get him out. And I think that they proved in doing that they can operate without Morgan McSweeney, the great organiser, and the former chief of staff who left over the weekend, that they've got a team in there that can operate and can galvanise when they need to. I think that there is a surreal element to this whole discussion at the moment, Kate, if I'm really honest, because this kind of huge thing on the horizon, no one's really properly talking about. We put it on the front page again today because we think it's so big, you can see it from miles. The Mandelson files are coming. They will come, they will be tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of messages involving people at the top of government, and they are going, that is a kind of ticking time bomb under this entire government, and it's like 25 years of stuff. It's a real problem for them. And so the main issue I've got is that every time Keir Starmer is going to try to get back on the front foot, these files are probably going to turn the conversation again to Mandelson. And that's the problem. So, yeah, he's in a stronger position than he was at the beginning of the week, but there's still this... I'm told that there are 12 people in the Cabinet Office full-time working on these files already, and that isn't enough. They're going to need to bolster it because there's so much information to go through. So that is the kind of undetonated bomb underneath the Labour Party right now.
Yeah, it's a really good point, Steve, and people can read that story on thetimes.com or the front page of the newspaper this morning. Steve, thanks very much.
Thank you.
That is Steven Swinford, the Times political editor.
They did a really good podcast on that, and the state of it. It's really interesting, that. And there's an interesting part. No one will thank you for saying this, but is that as the country totters in lots of different respects, is that a proportionate use of civil service time and energy trawling for 25 years worth of stuff?
Which, by the way, is not all going to be released publicly.
So it's going to go to a committee which are all going to look at it. At some point...
I think in the Times reporting this morning, the suggestion is that the 25 years of stuff is to go back and look for any potential criminality, which could then be passed to the police, but not necessarily to be published.
Or even be passed to the Security Committee.
Well, I think that might be the suggestion. Yeah. I mean, some of it will go to the Security Committee. That's the stuff that relates to the most recent stuff that we've been talking about.
But at what point do we say we want the police to investigate? Well, that's obviously the right thing to do with Andrew and with Mandelson. But as ever, with all of these things, everything was... as soon as government gets involved in an inquiry in any form, it immediately becomes unwieldy, doesn't it? It immediately becomes too hard to manage, and you think, well, are we going to get anything anytime soon, and is it going to be proportionate? Yeah,
Stephen and Ollie write in the paper this morning, the documents, this is the 25-year trawl, are not expected to be published, but any evidence will be sent to Scotland Yard and could result in an extension of the police investigation into Peter Mandelson.
A new Labour on trial was how it was put somewhere, I think possibly in that podcast, actually.